Good morning from the Caribbean, and good evening to our colleagues joining us in Kenya. Welcome to the Caribbean Tourism Organization's Global Tourism Resilience Day webinar, held as part of Global Tourism Resilience Week and live streamed into the GTR-CMC Global Conference in Kenya. My name is Jennifer Griffith, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Jamaica, and I will be your moderator for this webinar. Today's session is themed Caribbean Pathways to Tourism Resilience, the Power of Public-Private Sector Collaboration to Support Tourism in an Ever-Changing Environment. This session highlights how tourism-dependent economies are moving beyond crisis response toward long-term resilience and sustainability. We have a lot to share today, and the duration of the webinar is 90 minutes. And so we encourage obedience to the time slots given. In this first segment of the webinar, the Secretary General of the Caribbean Tourism Organization and the CEO of Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association will give an overview of the respective organizations and the importance of collaboration in building tourism resilience. I now invite the Secretary General of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, Mrs. Donna Regis Prosper, to deliver opening remarks.
Good morning. Thank you so much, PS, for this warm introduction. Please allow me to adopt the protocol that has already been established. However, I must recognize Honorable Edmund Bartlett, the Minister of Tourism for Jamaica, a true champion of resilience and a leader in our Caribbean tourism family. Minister, I want to thank you for your vision, your tireless leadership, and your advocacy for our beautiful region. I also extend warm welcome to our colleagues and officials joining us from Kenya and across the globe. Your presence reminds us that resilience knows no borders, and when the Caribbean and the world comes together, we turn knowledge into action. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of meeting with Professor Waller. We shared a vision to strengthen our partnership and connect the Caribbean to a global platform of research, training, innovation, and tourism resilience. We agreed on one first tangible step, this very webinar, a moment where policy, knowledge, and industry come together to make resilience practical, real, and actionable. Professor Waller, I want you to know that we're only just getting started, and I'm excited about what lies ahead. And here are we today, a virtual room filled with people, ideas, and energy. This is how resilience grows, through collaboration, through partnership, and through shared leadership. It is in this spirit that I must underscore the importance of our continued collaboration with the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association. Our partnership ensures that resilience is not only discussed at the policy level, but embedded within our operational realities of our hotels, tourism businesses, and industry stakeholders. By aligning strategy with industry leadership, we strengthen the entire tourism value chain and enhance the region's collective capacity to prepare, respond, and thrive. In the Caribbean, resilience is not theoretical. We are one of the most dependent regions on tourism in the world, and one of the most exposed to climate, health, and economic shocks. Every hurricane season, every global crisis, every market disruption remind us that tourism security is economic security. And yet, every time we rise, stronger, smarter, and united. At the CTO, resilience drives our recently launched Reimagine plan. We're not just recovering, we're preparing. Preparing to absorb shocks, adapt fast, and continue delivering value to our communities, to our businesses, to our investors, and most importantly, to our Caribbean citizens. Before I close, I want to congratulate Minister Bartlett and Professor Waller on the publication of their new book, Destination Reputational Resilience. This is exactly the kind of knowledge and leadership our region needs. It reminds us that resilience is both practical and strategic. As we mark Global Tourism Resilience Day, let's remember resilience is a collective achievement. From the Caribbean to Africa and beyond, we thrive through collaboration, strategic partnerships, and shared leadership. Even here in this virtual space, we're laying the foundation for that future together. And to all of you joining us today, enjoy the webinar, engage actively, take these ideas back to your teams, your organizations, and your communities. Thank you and have a wonderful and insightful Global Tourism Resilience Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General. You have in fact endorsed and reinforced the importance of resilience and how we embed this in the work we do across the tourism sector in the region. I'm now inviting Ms. Vanessa Ledesma, CEO of CHTA, to make a presentation.
Buenos dias. Good morning, PS. Warm wishes from the
Morning.
Caribbean. Protocol having been established, we thank the Global Tourism Resilience and Crisis Management Center and to our public partner sector, the Caribbean Tourism Organization, for the opportunity to be part of this important conversation. The Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, CHTA, now in our 64th year, represents 32 national hotel and tourism associations across the region, reflecting decades of partnership and shared development. We are private sector led and funded, and our work is grounded in a strong commitment to collaboration, partnership, and resilience. From our earliest days, our business leaders understood that the success of their investments is directly linked to the broader environment in which tourism operates. That understanding has shaped our broad-based approach to tourism development, one that prioritizes sustainability, competitiveness, and long-term viability. This philosophy is reflective in our advocacy and programs, which extend beyond supporting the marketing of Caribbean tourism to strengthening its overall marketability. We engage on issues such as crisis preparedness and management, workforce development and training, crime and health safety, energy efficiency, SME development, environmental stewardship, and waste management, and the integration of new technologies, complemented by our work in research and regional advocacy. In this segment of the program, you will hear from several of our industry leaders who will share practical examples of how collaboration and resilience are being advanced across our region, many in close partnership with our public sector counterparts, including the CTO. Thank you again for including CHTA in today's discussions, and we value the opportunity to contribute to this dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. We indeed appreciate the ongoing partnership with our tourism private sector in the region. That is one of the reasons why we are so strong. We work together, we collaborate. It is my honor to now invite the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, Minister of Tourism from Jamaica, who is now in Kenya, and we'll ask him to deliver ministerial remarks on the importance of global tourism resilience. Of course, you know what, this is my Minister of Tourism. Minister Bartlett. The connection is from Kenya, so please bear with them for a moment. They are about to come on. So they've asked us to just hold on for a couple more seconds.
Apologies, colleagues. Apologies. I have a slight cold, so I was struggling to try to get my voice in a more audible space. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the February 17th Global Tourism Resilience Day as we celebrate here from Nairobi, Kenya, as well as from the Caribbean. I would like to take the opportunity to just to speak about how we got here. It's as far as I'm concerned, it was a series of activities that were unexpected that started in a bar, to be quite frank. And I know, P.S., I don't know if you remember that phone call that you got from the bar, right? And from that bar,
I do.
you remember, right? So it started in a bar and then it morphed into working on a project, which was in 2017, a global conference that the Ministry of Tourism had put on. That out of the conference, and specifically out of what we call the Montego Bay Declaration, was a call for resilience to be a focal point for the tourism space. At the time, resilience was emerging as a development tool, but there was no conversation specific to tourism. And the partners in the tourism space were very concerned about the possibility that they would be left out. So it was recommended that a center be established. And within 6 months, that center was established at the University of the West Indies, and providing thought leadership, raising awareness about resilience, providing training and capacity building, as well as project management, policy development, and several other activities as well. The center itself started with a focus on pandemics, climatic resilient related issues, security related issues, geopolitics, as well as digital technologies. And interestingly so, I do remember when Minister Bartlett had recommended, who is our founder and our co-chair, had recommended that we include pandemic as a thematic area. I had at the time I had some concerns and I had asked Minister in pandemic. And interestingly, within a year a year and a half of that decision, we had a pandemic. But fortunately, because of Minister's foresight, we were able to navigate the pandemic because we had already started to prepare the activities. And the next step after that, after the center, we decided to establish other centers. We had one in Kenya. We worked on one in Malta with affiliates. We also had in Nepal, Kenya, where we are right here now, and then affiliates in the UK, Belize, and several other places as well. And I must say that the Kenyatta University Center here has been the flagship center, as evidenced by the fact that they're hosting a Global Tourism Resilience Day and facilitating 40 persons from 40 different countries, and every African country is actually represented here, as well as several countries from the Caribbean as well. And we're very thrilled at that particular moment. But what emerged from the first conference that we had, GTR conference, this first conference, was the notion that not many persons understood what resilience was. So Minister Bartlett and I had set out on a crusade. I'm calling it a crusade to try to raise awareness about resilience and the importance of resilience for the future and the future of the tourism sector and the sustainability of tourism. And through that moment, we have undertaken several webinars, seminars, we've authored books. reports, several articles and thought leadership related discourses clarifying tourism resilience. As a matter of fact, I think I can categorically state that the definition of tourism resilience is based on a book that myself and Minister Bartlett had authored, which is to prepare for, manage, and recover even better from a disruption or a crisis. And the next step was the most fascinating step, to be quite frank. When we realized that the importance of tourism resilience, we decided that we needed to try to globalize and normalize. And the only way we could have done that is to try to see how best to get the United Nations involved. And this day was as a result of the hard work of Minister Bartlett and the team at the Ministry of Tourism, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs under the directorship of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and with the support of the Prime Minister. And through that activity, GTR CMC was able to facilitate, I should say recommend, and also implement today Global Tourism Resilience Day. And this has been a dream come true for many persons. I mean, I don't personally know how many people can say that tourism day, that UN Day was as a result of things that we did. And I'm particularly proud of it. I'm proud of Jamaica, I'm proud of the Caribbean, I'm proud of the GTR CMC, I'm proud of the minister for that inclusion in the global development conversation about resilience because of the importance of it. And we continue to grow with this particular initiative, which is the GTR CMC's observation in Africa. And earlier today, ministers signed off on the GTR CMC's fifth conference, which will be in Malaga, Spain. That has been finalized. We have also finalized 2028, interestingly. So we literally had a line. I mean, people recognize the importance of it. And in 2026, I'm happy to report where we are now. We are in the process of developing a menu of software applications, Gen AI applications that we believe will transform the tourism sector, primarily for micro and small enterprise entrepreneurs, in terms of providing them with information as it relates to preparing for various types of disruptions, and as it relates to managing various types of disruption. And the fantastic things about these apps is that you can just talk to it. No complications, no reading. You just have a conversation with the app. And with that conversation, it facilitates the kind of transformation, access to markets, business intelligence, sharing of information, a marketplace, thought leadership information, and small bites of information in terms of how do I compete? How do I do it? Literally, we're calling it a research assistant in your pocket on your phone to be able to do so. And today's one other thing I should say, Chair, PS, is I'm also very proud of what happened today. We launched our new book, which is Destination Reputational Resilience. Minister and I have been having a lot of conversations. Occasionally, when something happens, he sends a WhatsApp, "Oh, Prof, what do you think about this?" And we have a conversation about it. When we would check the conversations between WhatsApp, emails, and otherwise, you get 4 reams of paper on talking about digital disruption. And we decided that we were going to codify and create and produce a book that not just, it's a book that it not only just tells you about what these disruptions are, how they affect you, and in some instances, how to manage these disruptions. It has 3 chapters with a 12-step strategy to deal with specific types of digital disruptions, cyber threats, the threats to privacy and security. How do you deal with misinformation? How do you deal with disinformation? How do you deal with fake news? So it has a series of strategies that you can actually utilize by following the book. I'm not telling you not to read the first 4 chapters and then jump to the chapters that focus on the strategy, because you need that context. But it has those tools in there and those strategies, and also links to other tools that can help you to navigate the disruptive space that we're in right now with these digital disruptions. And frankly speaking, it's perhaps the first book that has that has actually thought about and seriously thought about and developed a framework to be able to tackle these critical problems that can totally destroy a destination. And we've seen on many occasions, post-hurricane, post fires in Hawaii and Los Angeles, how information is circulated in an unverified way and how it negatively impacts on destination. So this book in particular, we're particularly proud of it because it provides you with a set of tools and a knowledge base to be able to navigate that particular disruptive force. So PS, I don't know if I've gone over my time, but thank you everyone for the efforts and the observation of resilience. You know, we have now come to recognize how important it is, to the point where other sectors, other international organizations have adopted our approach without saying so, have adopted our approach to look at resilience and how to build resilience and use it to transform lives and livelihoods and to create a kind of sustainable framework for nations. Thank you very much, everyone. PS.
Thank you, Prof. Waller. Now, I'm sure everybody realized by now that this was not Minister Bartlett that we're holding for. Instead, Professor Waller, who very enthusiastically covered both minister's component and his component. So you're a little bit over time, Prof, but it's all right because you started a little bit late. But we share enthusiasm. It is infectious. And I'm sure everybody will go out and purchase the new book, Destination Reputational Resilience. And what a time for that. If there's ever a time for something like this, it is now. So we thank you very much for your presentation. You've shared with us the growth and development of the GTRCMC, as well as the work that you have been doing to assist in supporting vulnerable regions. So thank you very much. And we hope you can hold on for the rest of the seminar and that minister will be able to join us later.
Let me try to see if I can locate it.
Yes. I just want to do a little shout out. In Jamaica, we say shout out. So I want to do a little shout out to some of the participants online. We have people from Belize, Florida, New York, Oregon, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and many other countries, and of course, Jamaica. It is good to have you all. Barbados, St. Kitts, I see the names, I see the countries coming in. It is good to have you all. Curacao, please just spread the word to others to log on because we have a lot of rich information to share this morning. Washington, D.C., Aruba, we are indeed a tourism family united across the globe. Montserrat, good to have you, good to have you. All right, we'll move on now to the next presentation. Caribbean Tourism Organization will present on the regional perspective, and we invite Mr. Narendra Ramgalam of the CTO to present on the work of the CTO in building resilience for its member countries.
Thank you so much, P.S. Griffith. Please allow me to continue with the protocol that was established. And of course, I love that segment you had just now where you gave a shout out to our tourism family that's united across the globe. So thank you so much for that. Now, in tourism, resilience is tested in one place first. That is the airport. When flights stop, tourism stops. When hotels close, jobs disappear. When visitors cancel, economies feel it. In the Caribbean, we've learned that tourism resilience is not about how beautiful your destination looks on a sunny day. It is about how quickly your destination can recover after a crisis. Storms have closed our runways. Pandemics have emptied our resorts. Economic shocks have reduced demand overnight. And yet, after every disruption, Caribbean tourism has returned. Not by accident, but by design. And there's a quote often attributed to Charles Darwin that captures our journey well. It is not the strongest who survive, nor the most intelligent, but the ones most responsive to change. And that is the Caribbean story. That is tourism resilience. And that is why at the Caribbean Tourism Organization, resilience is no longer treated as an emergency response. It is now a development strategy, a competitive strategy, and ultimately, it is a survival strategy. And we've heard this saying, every shock, whether it's climate, health, or economic, it becomes a national issue overnight. And that came out in my SG's remarks earlier. So for us, risk is not abstract. It is macroeconomic. But it also sends a signal to investors and partners that if we get resilience right, we do more than protect destinations. We protect investment. So at CTO, our role is to help our member countries move from vulnerability to investability. And we do this under a reimagined approach built on several pillars. But today I will just speak to 3 of those pillars, right? When you extract the information from our reimagined plan. So 3 of those pillars. One of those pillars is policy and planning. The other one is through systems and institutions. And the third one, partnerships and people. So let me start with the first one, policy and planning. We work with governments to embed resilience directly into tourism policy, development strategies, and investment frameworks. And I'll give you just 2 examples. One of the examples is through our Caribbean Sustainable Tourism Policy Framework, which is available online. We promote integrated disaster risk management, sustainable livelihoods, and ecosystem-based adaptation for tourism. We also have available online as well, where we would have developed a multi-hazard risk management guide for the Caribbean tourism sector. And that is a practical roadmap that covers mitigation, preparedness, response, recovery, and business continuity, which is extremely important. Now, because if resilience is not written into your tourism policy, it will not appear in your recovery, right? Now, in the near future, we would also like to, and this would be through funding partners and so on, create and advance a regional tool, such as a sustainable tourism audit tool, which would allow destinations to measure resilience across governance, infrastructure, environment, and business operations. Why? Because what gets measured, it gets managed. Secondly, systems and institutions. We support countries in strengthening the mechanisms, and that is our member countries, in strengthening the mechanisms that allow tourism to function before, during, and after crisis. We're working towards shared regional monitoring, early warning systems, and recovery systems with partners such as CIDEMA, which is the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, and CIMH, which is the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology. We've been working, and that's just one example of working with institutions in the region, right? Preparedness is also like infrastructure, just like roads, just like airports, you have to be prepared and treat it as such. We are also aligning standards, through the Hospitality Assured standard that we have. Sustainability indicators are now embedded in service and business excellence. Through our Caribbean Tourism Institute, we're scaling up training in climate adaptation, low carbon tourism, and crisis response. So you can find courses listed there as well that treat and deal with those specific areas. And through our Sustainability in Action webinar series, we translate policy into practice, from carbon calculators to eco-labels, giving tourism operators the tools to act and not just to listen to a webinar. And thirdly, partnerships and people. Tourism resilience is not only about hotels and runways. It's about workers, communities, farmers, fisherfolk, taxi drivers, tour guides, and small entrepreneurs. So when tourism collapses, entire societies feel it. And that is why CTO works across governments, universities, development partners, and the private sector through even this engagement that we have right now, in partnering with the CHTA. That's another avenue that we have gone in. Because why? Because public policy creates confidence, private investment creates capacity, and communities create continuity. So it is very important. Now, we are also strengthening regional collaboration through thematic working groups. So we have working groups on airlift, on cruise, on blue economy tourism, nature-based tourism, and we have started integrating those other colors of development, BGOP, blue, green, orange, purple, silver, black, those other colors of the economy into sustainable development. Right? And what that does is it ensures that islands are not just competing blindly, but we're all learning together. Now, through global commitments as well, like the Glasgow Declaration, the Baku Declaration, Caribbean tourism is aligning itself with global climate action. And of course, the Caribbean stands on the front line of climate change. We contribute the least to global carbon emissions, yet we are among the most impacted. And I always like to use this quote. At this 1.5 degrees of warming, once it continues, we risk losing up to 90% of warm water corals, the very ecosystems that attract visitors here. And yet, the Caribbean is a lab of solutions. And we see this in Dominica, positioning itself as the world's first climate resilient nation, right? Through the good work that they've been doing in terms of eco-lodges, geothermal energy, CBT, community-based tourism activities, and so on. Barbados, for example, another example, blending coastal restoration, regenerative agriculture, heritage tourism, etc., with blue economy initiatives. Tobago, perhaps one of the smallest destinations in the region. They've been supporting hotels with energy audits, eco certification, Blue Flag, Green Key, UNESCO Man on Biosphere programs existing there as well. And of course, you have other countries, St. Kitts and Nevis, and so many others who have integrated sustainability into businesses and the way they go about doing things. Now, vulnerability has forced us to modernize faster. So for investors, resilience is not about avoiding risk. It's about managing it intelligently. And that's what we've been trying to do in the region. The best investments are those with the best investments are not those with no risk. They are those with high readiness. So we have to bear that and understand that as well. And most importantly, what we've been doing in the Caribbean, at CTO, is we have been promoting that shift in mindset from sustainability to regenerative. Because sustainability, you have over 371 definitions of sustainability, and they all speak of holding your resource base constant and so on. But regenerative and adding that mindset of regenerative is it ensures that your resource base is left in a better condition than you would have met it. So that's another thing that we have been doing in terms of promoting and shifting that mindset. So I will close with this
Thank you
thought.
so very much.
I will close with this thought. Tourism will always be exposed to risk, but it does not have to be fragile. And our message to the world is clear. We're building destinations that can absorb shock, adapt quickly, and continue to deliver value. And at the CTO, we are proud to work with our member countries and partners to make resilience not just a response, but a reputation. And I thank you so much, P.S. Griffith, for your time, and I hand over back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramgoolam. We have very enthusiastic speakers, and there's so much information to share. And so we are thankful for the presentation from the CTO. Thank you for demonstrating how regional coordination strengthens national preparedness and recovery. And we are eternally grateful for the very good work that the CTO continues to do in the region. Truly, CTO is a solid citizen in Caribbean tourism. We'll now move on to our case study section. We will have 2 case studies, one from Jamaica and the other from Dominica. And our first country case study will be from Jamaica. And without further ado, we invite Mr. Donovan White, Director of Tourism, to present on resilience in the context of Hurricane Melissa. He will include key learning outcomes from our experience. Mr. White.
Good morning, PS, other distinguished colleagues, partners, friends, and all of our listeners and viewers online. Welcome to this webinar. We are obviously very eager and happy to be here today and to be able to do this. In the wake of Hurricane Melissa, Jamaica, and by extension, the wider Caribbean had its resilience tested in ways we have never experienced before. Melissa was not just simply another storm. It was the third largest and most powerful hurricane on record, with winds reaching over 185 miles per hour, and atmospheric pressure measurement and showing an extraordinary 890 millibars, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, is the second most powerful hurricane in history. It was a force of nature that changed or challenged everything we thought we understood about preparedness, endurance, resilience, and of course, recovery. The impact was devastating. Lives were lost, homes, livelihoods, and treasured possessions were swept away. And as we all know, recovery is never only about rebuilding infrastructure, it is also about healing hearts. The loss of loved ones and the disruption of communities is not something that can be repaired overnight. The journey ahead will require patience, compassion, sustained commitment. But in tourism, moments like these also present something else, a moment to demonstrate resilience in action. Today, I want to focus specifically on brand resilience and communication resilience, 2 pillars that proved essential not only in responding to this crisis, but in shaping what recovery could become. My esteemed colleague who is on panel with me, Ms. Nicola Madden-Gregg, will walk you through the operational and more structural aspects of our recovery efforts. My focus will be how we protected the destination's identity, reputation, and global confidence during one of our most challenging chapters ever. On brand, Jamaica has long enjoyed one of the most recognizable and beloved tourism brands, in fact, world brands, anywhere in this universe. Our island is not just a place, it's a feeling, a symbol of warmth, rhythm, culture, and global connection. But as Hurricane Melissa unfolded, the international media narrative became overwhelming, and in many cases, absolute. Comments or statements or reportage, as they call it in media, like the island is fully destroyed, didn't help. It only made my job and my team's job that much more difficult. That single message, repeated globally, had the potential to cause lasting damage, not only to visitor confidence, but to livelihoods across the tourism ecosystem. Our challenge, therefore, was urgent. A, to cauterize misinformation. B, to bring clarity where there was chaos. And C, to ensure that Jamaica's story was not written solely through the lens of a disaster. We had to insert direct, credible, and consistent communication into global conversations to shift narrative from disaster to determination. On the communication pillar, communication therefore became the mechanic by which we managed both the brand and the destination during the crisis and beyond it. In real time, we engaged international media, travel partners, airlines, tour operators, governments, and just about everybody in our tourism and global ecosystem. We had to first, A, communicate with transparency, speed, and responsibility. And I want to underscore the word responsibility. B, we distinguish between affected areas and operational zones. And C, we reassured travelers, supported stakeholders, and most importantly, we centered the human reality of what our people were facing. Because resilience is not about pretending nothing happened. Resilience is about facing what happened and responding with purpose. So from crisis response to transformation, and this is where the story evolved and evolved very quickly. Hurricane Melissa was a moment of disruption, but it is also becoming a moment of transformation for Jamaica and indeed Jamaica's tourism. We're not simply restoring tourism, we're strengthening it. We're rethinking infrastructure, upgrading systems, improving crisis protocols, and building deeper alignment between tourism, community, resilience, and sustainable development. We are ensuring that recovery does not just return us to where we were, but propels us to where we must go. So in closing today, Jamaica's tourism resilience is not an abstract concept. It is real people showing up, real systems adapting, real leadership under pressure, and destination refusing to be defined by any one event or disaster. The world may have seen the storm, but what they will remember is our strength and our purpose as Jamaicans. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. White. You truly have put our experience, which really should go down in the annals of history. Hurricane Melissa was no easy feat to deal with. And we're thankful for sharing with our audience how Jamaica prepared and responded to the hurricane that we just experienced, the worst hurricane they say in history. Thank you very much. You know, before we invite Dominica, since he spared a minute or two, I'm going to take a moment just to do a little bit more shouting out, because I have to acknowledge Tobago, and also we have two regional organizations on, and I just want to say a special thank you to them for joining. We have South American Caribbean Chamber of Commerce, and we have the Association of Caribbean States. Welcome. Thank you for joining us in this morning's webinar. We'll now invite Dominica to present our second case study. Dominica is a country positioning itself as a climate resilient destination. And so I invite Mr. Donaldson Frederick, Chief Technical Officer, to share the Dominican experience.
Thank you, PS, for the opportunity, and special good morning to our distinguished guests. And thank you for those of you who are online to ensure that we discuss and collaborate on this matter of importance. Mr. White, thank you so much for that presentation as well. Touch on a few key areas, what Dominica would have experienced in 2017. And thanks to CTO for inviting us to be part of this discussion on Global Tourism Resilience Day webinar. Now, let me just let you know that Dominica is called the Nature Island of the Caribbean, and Dominica offers authentic, unspoiled Caribbean experience, perfect for travelers who want to connect with nature and culture. And so it is important that we build a climate resilient destination. And our case study this morning will look at Dominica and Hurricane Maria in 2017, which devastated communities, infrastructure, and the economy. Dominica sets out a bold vision to become the world's first climate resilience nation by 2030. And this was done by the Honorable Prime Minister during the 22nd session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Now, this vision is operationalized through the Climate Resilience and Recovery Plan under the broader National Resilience Development Strategy 2030. And it is important that we take note of these two important documents, as these documents translates Dominica's resilience vision into specific goals and action. And I want to emphasize the word action, because a lot of times we are not action-oriented people until something happens. But it's important that we set goals and we carry on with these actions. Now, these actions focus on strong communities, building a robust economy, resilient infrastructure, protected natural assets, and capable institutions. There are a number of pillars, and we'll just look at a few in the interest of time. One, which is the climate resilience system, which looks at adaptation, energy transformation, institutional capacity, prudent disaster risk management, effective response and recovery, building back better after these shock events. Now, as a result of all of this, Dominica is not just talking about clean energy. We are actually implementing it as part of our resilient blueprint. So after Hurricane Maria, one of the activities or actions that we were actively involved in is to ensuring that there are solar systems at our health facilities and at our schools. Now, these schools are also used as community emergency shelters. So in that way, we linked reliable energy with emergency readiness in communities. Transition to geothermal, that's another area that we're looking at in terms of the energy sector. With support from the World Bank and partners, Dominica is developing its first geothermal power plant to deliver clean, low-cost, indigenous electricity and move towards 100% renewable energy by 2030. Now, with this in mind, we also need to upgrade the grid system. So we are also doing that currently, and investments are improving the transmission network so it can withstand hazards and this disrupted renewable power island-wide. So the entire country will be powered with renewable energy as a result of the geothermal project that we have ongoing at this time. We also look at nature-based solutions, and Dominica leverages its natural system as part of climate action, and we're looking at conservation and restoration. Now, government action has expanded forest protection and reforestation, integrating biodiversity conservation with local livelihood and ecotourism opportunities. So one of the activities that we had is we ensured that all of the communities engage in reforestation, and at the same time, persons within the community themselves benefited through that program itself. We also been looking at soil and watershed and coastal protection, and nature-based stabilization is now part of climate proofing in infrastructure. Recently, we see the development of a new road through the indigenous community, going all the way to the airport, and climate proofing infrastructure was used, such as stabilization along vulnerable areas, and native plants were used to protect these lands from, if we're thinking of landslides and land slippage. Now, these solutions not only buffer extreme weather, but they also support tourism, they support water security, and they support community resilience. In light of supporting community resilience, strengthening communities through climate action is critical for us in Dominica. And as such, the Community Resilience Project, it's a GCF funded project. It's $70 million. It focused on climate smart agriculture, and again, meeting the people at the community level, resilient infrastructure, upgrades, early warning systems, and disaster preparedness in vulnerable areas. It supports women, young farmers, resilient crop production, and resilient shelters, empowering communities to withstand future events. The climate smart agriculture is another critical area which supports the protection of food security. And projects like this strengthen irrigation, water management, agro-processing, and training in sustainable farming practices, which align with our CRRP, which is the recovery plan. Local preparedness and knowledge sharing is also key as part of the action. Establishing climate knowledge hubs, community planning, and resilient building training in local communities, looking at adaptation and building capacity at the community level. We're also looking at a sustainable way of life, and that has to be part of our culture as well. So we're looking at agroecological practices, help families grow diverse crops and adapt to shifting weather patterns. Community disaster preparedness is also key. And we're looking at having those discussions with village councils and ensuring that the councils themselves bring that to the community and engage everybody. So you have a collaborative effort in that sense. Now, looking forward in terms of our tourism and economic and resilience, Dominica's global brand as a nature isle is tied to resilience development, and there's no doubt about that. Investments protect our coral reefs, our mangroves, the forests, and cultural sites, all critical for climate adaptation and tourism. With a diversified economy, including ecotourism, sustainable agriculture, and renewable energy, Dominica is positioning itself as a benchmark for other island states. In conclusion, Dominica work to become a climate resilient destination is not a slogan. It's a multi-layer people-centric strategy anchored in clean energy transformation, community empowerment, nature-based solution, and institutional commitment. This holistic approach not only prepares the island for future climate impacts, but also nurtures a resilient way of life where communities thrive in harmony with nature. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frederick. And we certainly wish you all the very best as you try to build on your strategy for Dominica to be the first climate resilience destination, and you say by 2030. All the very best, and we look forward to just tracking with you as a country, continue to work on your vision. With this, we're going to move into another segment. We are going to be inviting the private sector, the CHTA in particular, to share with us, because we all know that government cannot achieve resilience on its own. We have to work with our private sector. And now we invite the CHTA to present on what the private sector is doing to strengthen tourism resilience. We have two speakers, Mr. Sanovnik Destan, President of the CHTA, and Mrs. Nicola Maden-Gregg, immediate past President of the CHTA. We will start with Mr. Destan, yes? And then we move on to Mrs. Maden-Gregg. The floor is yours.
Pierce, sorry, can we just take Minister quickly, please?
I'm sorry. You know that Minister Bartlett should have come on a bit earlier.
Minister.
So Nicola and Sanovnik, we're going to hold the anticipation a little bit and allow Minister a few minutes to just join us from Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya. Minister Bartlett, you're on.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's find a place we can eat. Hold on, PS, 1 second.
We're seeing and hearing you.
So, PS,
Yes, sir.
all
Floor
right.
is
So,
yours.
after great effort, finally.
Connectivity still seems to be an issue.
Greetings, all, from the continent of Africa, the great country of Kenya, and the city of Nairobi, where today we celebrated the 4th renewal of Global Tourism Resilience Day. There were 5 ministers and 15 countries represented, and the Prime Minister, or as they refer, the Prime Cabinet Secretary of the Cabinet, who is the Prime Minister of Kenya, was our featured speaker. The day went extremely well. We renewed the commitment to the principles of resilience, but more importantly, we signed together the Nairobi Declaration for Tourism Resilience, in which we called for a global tourism resilience fund to support particularly South-South relations in building resilience across the countries, and for support for small and medium tourism enterprises that are the first to be impacted greatly and the last to actually recover from disruptions when they arrive. We also launched our first book on destination reputation resilience, focusing on the impact of AI and specifically the effect of misinformation, disinformation, and fake news on destinations, and the need for us to build toolkits around possibilities of forecasting, mitigating, managing, and of course, recovering from these digital attacks and cyber attacks that we endure from time to time. Destinations we note are the last sometimes to recover when they are faced with reputational damages as a result of information that in most instances are skewed and are lacking in facts. We cited problems of set destinations have with regards to advisories that are sometimes not reflective of the true positions in the respective areas, but which takes years sometimes for them to recover. And indeed, in many instances, they never recover, and the impact that it has on the lives of people. We concluded that the rest of the African communities need to embrace certainly the resilience agenda. And of course, from there to the world in a similar vein. We ended up also with a consideration that resilience is the new currency of tourism. The day will end here with an awards function later on this evening. And we are excited to indicate that some very strong and powerful organizations in the African nations around, particularly those that are closer to Kenya and who have had enormous impact based on weather events and seismic events in particular, from droughts and also from wars.
but who have survived and who are struggling, in fact, in many instances, to recover fully and to grow. Tourism is the particular vehicle that is now being used to drive their growth and their recovery. Some of those countries will be cited and awarded this evening. I want to congratulate the CTO, CHTA, and the entire Caribbean community for the role that we have been playing in advancing tourism thought leadership, and particularly in the areas now of reputational destination resilience. I wish us all a very successful webinar, and I'm sorry I have to jump off now because the awards function actually starts within a few minutes, and I have to play a role in it. But again, thanks to the team, thanks particularly to our Secretary General and our leaders within the JHTA in Jamaica who are involved, as well as the CHTA in the Caribbean space. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now resume with our schedule. So Mr. Destang and Mrs. Nicola Madden-Gregg. Nicola, you're starting.
I believe Sanofnik goes before me.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you, everyone, and good morning. And yes, Nicola, thank you in this instance. This time you allow me to go first. I appreciate it. Usually it's ladies first, but this time around. So we're here to talk about the private sector's role in tourism resilience. And I have the unenviable task of following Minister Bartlett's remarks. And Minister, you said something that's so very important. You said that resilience is basically the new currency, so to speak, when it comes to tourism. And if resilience is the currency, then what I'm about to speak about today, which takes a slightly different approach, is sort of the vault that protects that currency. Of course, a lot of the focus on resilience is on physical resilience traditionally, and traditionally focus on physical infrastructure with good reason, sea defenses, building codes, etc. But in today's world, digital infrastructure, which we're going to talk about today, plays a critical role in resilience and our ability to recover faster. Modern tourism resilience is really and truly a combination of physical, digital, and human resilience, which has been alluded to earlier. And while artificial intelligence, which is all the rage these days, is a part of it, what we really need is a full digital ecosystem supporting our industry. Now, in the Caribbean, I think, Donna, you mentioned this earlier, resilience is not merely theoretical and textbook in our region. We live it each and every single year: hurricanes, pandemics, global demand shifts, airlift disruptions, you name it. And most recently, our colleagues in Jamaica have once again experienced this time with Hurricane Melissa. Lost room nights, cancellations, infrastructure damage that, according to some estimates, in excess of $8.8 billion US, and apparently counting, 40% of gross domestic product in Jamaica. So truly devastating from an economic standpoint. But what's really changing is this: the speed of recovery for countries like Jamaica and others that are going to be impacted by such disruptions is now directly tied to how digitally prepared we are. And that starts even before a crisis. So before crisis even happens, digital tools allow us to understand risk and plan ahead. We can use digital tools to forecast demand, model different scenarios, communicate with guests, and secure, of course, our data in the cloud. Very, very important. And we're already seeing this practice globally. In Singapore, for example, the tourism sector uses data analytics and forecasting to model visitor flows and risk after a disaster, helping both government and the private sector to plan for disruption. And this is what preparedness really looks like in the digital era. And during a crisis, digital systems really become our lifeline. Mass messaging, remote access to systems, guest tracking, and you're seeing this in places like Hong Kong, where hotels and destinations use WhatsApp and AI-enabled guest communication tools during typhoons and disruptions to keep guests informed and supported in real time. And closer to home, after Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, many tourism businesses relied on satellite internet and emergency solutions to restore communications, take bookings, and process payments, even when traditional telecom networks were down. So increasingly, connectivity resilience, including satellite systems like Starlink, is becoming essential for hotels and destinations in hurricane-prone and disaster-prone destinations. So digital connectivity really is becoming our operational lifeline. Of course, after a crisis, and when we are in recovery mode, after the storm, so to speak, passes, digital technology truly becomes our recovery engine. Dynamic pricing, and this is traditionally when we think of using digital tools for recovery, this is what we think of. So dynamic pricing, digital marketing, using our customer relationship marketing, email marketing, and online distribution channels, that allows us to rebuild demand quickly. And looking again at practical examples, after Hurricane Maria again, Dominica used digital campaigns and CRM re-engagement to reposition itself globally as the nature island reborn. And this was certainly part of the beginning of their push to becoming truly resilient by 2030, as was mentioned earlier. And in Thailand, after the tsunami, aggressive digital marketing and global online campaigns helped to restore digital demand. And during COVID, Dubai, as well as many other destinations in the Caribbean, used real-time data dashboards and digital marketing to reopen and recover faster than many global destinations. So the lesson for me here is very clear. Digitally mature destinations recover faster. Of course, when we're talking about disruption, we can't not talk about the airline industry. For those of us in the Caribbean, we're not drive-to destinations. You can't swim here. You take a flight or you take a ferry. And one of the major disruptions is airlines. And looking at practical examples in Singapore, Singapore's Changi airport system, they actually use predictive analytics to manage passenger flows and help tourism operators adjust operations in real time following a disruption. Now, imagine if hotels and other tourism businesses were able to actually integrate that real-time flight tracking and digital communication tools into their own systems, which is possible right now. You could use that to manage late arrivals, adjust your staffing, reassign transfers, and protect the guest experience. So when airlift is disrupted, digital intelligence truly becomes our control tower. So we really need to start thinking of digital systems as not just marketing tools, but as business continuity infrastructure. Are your critical systems in the cloud, or are they still, on-premise and attached to a server? Cloud-based property management systems, digital backup, remote reservations, online payment systems. These sound like very mundane things, but these are things that actually allow our businesses to continue operating even when the physical environment is disrupted. And on top of that digital foundation sits artificial intelligence. At the CHDA, one of the things that my predecessor, President Nicola, did was to create our technology task force, and she appointed me as our first chair of the task force. And one of the things that we did very early on was to create an artificial intelligence guide for Caribbean tourism, which is now on version 2.0, and we're looking to release a third version this year. And artificial intelligence is not theoretical. It's already being used across our region globally. You have hotels like Jade Mountain in St. Lucia using AI-driven guest engagement systems. The big brands like Hilton and Marriott are using it for predictive maintenance, revenue optimization, etc. And digital certainly is a foundation, but artificial intelligence is the accelerator of us adopting it. That applies as well in energy resilience. You're seeing, of course, the importance of energy resilience and using alternative energy. Well, to be able to apply a lot of these, you have to be able to reduce your energy usage, effectively to be able to make that investment in solar and other alternative energies. And you're seeing companies using AI-driven energy management systems to optimize their consumption, prioritize load during outages, and switch intelligently between the grid, generator, and battery systems. But your resilience truly is not just about systems and technology. It's also about people. After disasters, our employees are often directly impacted, housing damage, transport disruption, and very importantly, financial and emotional stress. And hotels and tourism businesses use digital platforms like WhatsApp and workforce management systems to check on staff, coordinate transport, coordinate support as well as needed. And it allows us to do rapid onboarding, remote training as necessary, multilingual support, etc. But the lesson here for me is if our people are not resilient, our businesses can't be resilient. And of course, we've talked a bit about technology and people, which are big focus areas of mine during my presidency. But one of the third pillars that we like to speak of, other than people and technology, is linkages, which I know Nicola will get into more detail about. But digital platforms allow tourism recovery to spread into the wider community. You're seeing in closer to home for those of you joining us from Kenya, in countries like Rwanda, very impressive digital platforms that they have that connect hotels to local suppliers, artisans, and experiences. And in India, digital payment systems like UPI allow small vendors to participate in the tourism economy. This is important in the Caribbean as well. In Jamaica, we have Alex, that is a system that is used to connect hotels to farmers. And having these digital systems allow the tourism recovery benefits to go into the wider community, even again after disruption, because it's being done digitally. So as we move forward, we need to ensure that our transformation in technology in the tourism sector in the Caribbean is responsible and inclusive. And globally, frameworks like the EU's AI and data protection laws are very important in that. And we need to ensure in the midst of all of this technology adoption that there is good cybersecurity, data privacy, and very critically important, access for small and medium enterprises. We need a lot of that from our technology partners and our telecommunication providers as well, access for SMEs as well as communities, because the resilience needs to be inclusive. Of course, we also need private-public sector collaboration. Very important. If this is going to happen, it can't happen alone. It can't just be the private sector. We need collaboration between the governments, organizations like CTO, and technology partners, because digital resilience requires, of course, infrastructure, policy, training, and investment. So as I close, I know I've gone through a lot, and a lot of these examples that I have can be provided. If anyone wants to source documents of these, we can provide them separately. But I just wanted to close that and just note that the Caribbean has always been known as a global leader in hospitality. But now we have an opportunity to lead in something even more important: resilient, intelligent, and technology-enabled tourism. If we do this right, we'll not just recover from crisis faster, we'll become more competitive, more sustainable, and very important to me, more inclusive as a region. And we'll use technology not to replace what makes us special as Caribbean people, but to amplify our Caribbean identity. Because resilience today is no longer just about surviving the next crisis, it's about adapting much faster than it. And with that, I want to close and hand over to Nicola. I want to thank all of you, and very happy for CHDA's participation on this very important matter of tourism resilience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nicola, please just continue.
Yeah, I'm just trying to share my screen.
We can see it.
So what Sanandek took you through was a forward-changing idea that the CHD has been working on and incorporating digital strategies into our response. But I'm going to take you back a little bit and then come back forward again. So our crisis preparedness has been in our DNA as a region. This partnership has been going for over 25 years with CTO. And from that period, we did a hardcover version of a crisis management guide and training program, which we had shared throughout the region. At the destination level, we have partnerships with the hotels, transportation companies, other key government and private sector entities, such as the Chamber of Commerce. And these are long-standing partnerships has allowed us to have real-time sharing and rapid response. I'm just going to look back at COVID, and you will see how quickly, built on this 6-year tourism health partnership with CHD and Carrefour, we were able, within a couple of weeks of the COVID pandemic, to put in place very, very strong tools. And the reason why I'm going to share this is because as we build resilience, each crisis we must use as a stepping stone to be able to be even more formidable for the next crisis, because definitely it's going to happen again. So the recovery focused on outreach to various governments, protecting and rebuilding airlift, as mentioned by Stanovnik, advancing frameworks with CTO and CARICOM and other heads of government, and putting in place a health safety stamp and recognition program. Our results in the Caribbean was that we had one of the lowest per capita rates of COVID-19 reported incidents, hospitalizations, and deaths in the world. As you can see from the statistics provided here, we were really significantly lower compared to Latin America and the UK. And these low rates reflected from these collaborative and sustained proactive measures. And this is what we have been building on as a region. So let's look at COVID versus Melissa. Hurricane Melissa, as pointed out by all the previous presenters, was a very strong and unpredictable hurricane. And the nature of the impact varied, both in terms of physical infrastructure, where with COVID, we did not lose any physical infrastructure, we lost a lot in Melissa. The level of disruption varied, where it was gradual and more predictable during COVID, while with Melissa it was immediate and severe. There was loss of occupancy, high repair costs, increased operating expenses. Our staff was displaced, unemployed, and damaged their own housing, roadblocks, and difficulty to access their workplace. We needed expanded policy support. And as Donovan mentioned earlier, we had to have a more focused media plan because, of course, unlike in COVID, where it was a global impact, this was specific to our Jamaica and the region. So what do we apply some of these learnings to Hurricane Melissa that we had through COVID? We continue to ensure that all our national hotel associations are looking out and have emergency preparedness manuals. And these deals with other incidents besides hurricanes and pandemics. We partner with the Tourism Ministry and other private sector organizations. We regionally monitor the storm path and do data analysis, as we spoke about, using real-time data to be able to track and monitor the storm and provide information to our members. We worked with regional hotel associations, and we also prepared our team members and families. Key aspects that we look for pre-event: insurance, making sure that our members have the correct insurance in place, that they have hurricane storerooms and critical supplies, that their hurricane shelters are identified not only for themselves, but also for their guests. And those who can put together, we have hurricane guarantee programs, which gives a little bit of comfort for persons who may be displaced by the storm so they can rebook and come back to the region. We look with strategic partnerships through linkages, which I'm going to expand on. And as we said, communication strategy. And we work with our Tourism Emergency Management Center through the Ministry of Tourism. This was the impact level of Melissa, which impacted mainly our tourism corridor. In event, ongoing communication, both locally and regionally, as Stanovnik mentioned, Starlink played an important role when data was lost for some of our normal providers across the region and in country. We had to monitor through online communications and loading up of data and information into the cloud to ensure that persons could have real-time information through our TIOP, which is our communication center with the Ministry of Tourism. They had real-time access to ODPEM and other government agencies. Monitoring of international media as well as social media was important so that we could continue to provide a duty of care to the remaining visitors on island and in hotel. Minister Bartlett appointed our Tourism Recovery Task Force, which is post-event, and this was co-chaired by a private sector member, and members of the private sector and the public sector sat together and were immediately in place following the passing of the storm. Key areas of focus: damage assessment, business continuity, workforce community support, utilities and services, communicating and brand assurance, where Visit Jamaica had a dashboard that persons could come on and see everything that was happening, what was happening with our airports, transportation, hotels, attractions, what was open, what wasn't open, how you access, and a full FAQ on everything that was happening. And of course, resilience and sustainability. Our task force focused on 4 pillars. Donovan went into the brand, and I'm going to touch a little bit on people, industry, and linkages as a more deeper aspect. For people, as Sanobnik mentioned, this is something that is germane to anything that we do in the Caribbean as in a tourism industry. Our people is our lifeblood, and we had to ensure that they did not lose their livelihood and we did not lose our team members. So we worked with the Ministry of Tourism and other agencies to provide care packages. And we also ensured that financial assistance that was similar to what we had in COVID-19, we lobbied the government formally, and they worked with us hand in glove to ensure that we were able to provide this emergency relief. The outcome is that our team members were able to get back to work, and we were able to retain our team members within the industry and within the country. This is just a sample of some of the programs, the Jamaica Tourism Cares program, which was supported by various nonprofit organizations to build those care packages and to give financial assistance as well to our team members. The CHTA with the JHTA also had a hurricane relief fund, and we had various aspects where we had raffles and different ways to raise money to do different recovery initiatives. Again, partnership. The CHTA, the JHTA, and the CHTA Education Foundation raised just over $150,000 US, and the Jamaica Cares Initiative, which was anchored under the Ministry of Tourism, estimated over $1 billion in contributions and relief aid, which was between government and private sector contributions. These are some of the headlines, as you can see. From an industry perspective, we had to stabilize our sector, and we reactivated COVID-IGVA programs, including working with the Banking Association on mortgage and loan repayment tools so that persons could get moratoriums. We also spoke to the utility companies and our licensing agency, the Tourism Product Development Company, to also look at moratoriums and relief as persons had to rebuild their organizations and in turn, community. We worked with the government to fast track.
I'm so sorry, time is running out on us, and we must allow the time for questions.
Okay, I'm running down to this part. So from a linkages point of view, we look to move to what can we do as a region to diversify, and that is to ensure that we have supply chains in our hands. To strengthen our supply chains, give us greater resiliency. And we worked with the Caribbean Private Sector Organization to look at some of the alternative sourcing so that when we have these shocks, we know that we can get supply within our region. So this is some of the savings that it's potential in terms of 2 products, as well as the overall expected savings of US $1.3 billion across this Caribbean single market and economy. With agriculture, we're looking at 233 million. And so this is something that we are working towards in our linkages capacity through the CHTA. The savings rate could be as high as 33.8%. We also asked our hoteliers, are they currently sourcing products in the Caribbean? And we're at about 50%. But as you can see, there is a great amount of potential to continue to support regional collaboration. And this is what they have been doing in terms of working with other associations and partnerships through export agencies, local manufacturing associations, and the Chamber of Commerce to ensure that we can develop and build our linkages. Right now, we are still experiencing problems sourcing within the Caribbean due to shipping costs and availability. And this is again how the partnership with CTO and CARICOM will help to reduce, and the CSPO, these barriers so that we can respond better as a region. So looking ahead, we want to continue to build family-friendly, business-friendly policies to support safe travel, both in terms of health and other emergencies, continue to improve the use of technology, as AI, as Sanobnik mentioned, in our analysis and problem solving, plan for long-term recovery, especially since what we have experienced through COVID and Melissa, continue to collaborate with all our organizations locally and regionally, use data-driven advocacy to connect us and ensure that we support ongoing stability, work on our public relations and marketing through effective communications to ensure that our story is told in a way that continues to build the Caribbean and build our destinations. And of course, continue to educate our travelers on what we're doing to ensure clean, healthy, and safe destinations within the Caribbean, promoting unique and personalized experience, all with the use of technology.
Thank you so very much, Ekalo. This is a mouthful. You're going to have to share this presentation. We hope they can be uploaded to the CTO so that persons can access them. We really are out of time. We have a couple minutes left, and we'd love to have even 1 or 2 questions. We have had a very good audience. You have participated well. I've been following the chat, and I really hope that we can have 1 or 2 questions in. So, Mr. Ramgalan, are there any questions?
There were 2 questions from Richard Jordan, and I answered them already. So one of the questions was, with regards to the Malanga conference, will it be in 2028? No, it's going to be in 2027, and then you have UAE in 2028, and then Japan 2029. And yeah, that was the only question that was asked. I'm going through the comments now to see if there are any other questions. Someone did ask as well if this is being recorded and if it would be shared, and yes, it's being recorded, and we can share the links. Other than that, I am not seeing any other questions directed to either the panelists or any of the speakers on call at the moment.
All right, so there is time for 1 question. If there's anyone with a new question, please seize the moment quickly. Going, gone. All right, thanks again, everyone. Thank you to all our panelists, all our speakers. I think we have a chock full of information, and this certainly will help us as we seek to build resilience across the region, and in fact, across the world. And so, as we conclude today's session, we have in fact demonstrated in many ways how resilience is important as we seek to respond to crises. And we agree that we are in the period when we can expect certainly more crises caused by natural disasters, and in fact, sometimes man-made disasters. It is about transforming tourism into a stronger, smarter, and more sustainable sector. So on behalf of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, and the Global Tourism Resilience and Crisis Management Center, we again thank all our speakers. We thank all the countries and organizations who had persons represented here this morning. This session, as you know, forms a part of the week-long activity of Global Tourism Resilience Week, and the information will be available. It will be uploaded by CTO. I think you have a link already in the chat. And so we ask that you just download, replay for further learning, and we look forward to having you for future webinars. Have a very happy and productive Global Tourism Resilience Day. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.